something I dug into quite a bit here over the past week. Very
So
interesting.
I'm assuming this story is going to be about how wonderful the company that put out all of the childhood classics is. Because I love Aladdin, and I love Pocahontas, and I even like The Little Mermaid. I certainly like their new stuff, Moana. So tell me some feel good stuff about how some heartwarming stories about how these beloved cartoons come into existence, James.
They own Disneyland Incorporated, obviously. Not sure what these companies are. They own ABC Incorporated, Fox Family, Worldwide, Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilms, Hulu, 21st Century Fox. So that's their empire. And how did they acquire all this wealth, would you guess? To purchase all these things.
I'm assuming.
Remaking classic childhood fairy tales?
Yeah. Yeah, probably. They paid them in kindness.
Well, the classics are all public domain films that they redid, and then they instituted political pressure on the government to enact these copyright laws to protect these things that they recreated, that they essentially stole from other people. And then they convinced the government to extend copyright from 14 years in 1790 to now it's 100 years. So anything they create, so they just created Moana. Moana is theirs for 100 years.
But they,
in fact,
hang on, the dates you said 1790. That's
yeah.
not right. Disney was not around in 1790.
No, the U.S. Copyright Act was created in 1790, and it was 14 years at that point. So anything, your IP, your intellectual property, was yours for 14 years, and then it went into the public domain for common use. And since that time, in large part because of Disney, it's now 100 years. And in fact, in 2024, I believe, if I remember this correctly, 2024, Mickey Mouse will be in public domain, unless this law is amended again. And I'm sure that they're working on that. It's coming up here in about 2 years.
Yeah, I just wonder how broad that is. I mean, obviously, yeah, all these these are all old stories, they're old fairy tales. Moana come from the old kind of traditional Tahitian tales about Maui, the great sea god, and his whatever. Little Mermaid was an old story. Obviously, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty.
They're all of them are either books or classic fairy tales.
I mean, it's kind of the nature of stories and music is that they keep getting remade and repurposed and rebranded by successive generations and successive
you would think that.
And I think this is just the newest iteration of that, right? I mean, it's just. I mean, they haven't copyrighted the idea of Cinderella. They've copyrighted their version, right?
No, nobody else can do Cinderella.
Really?
Nobody else can do Jack and the Beanstalk. Nobody else can do the Ugly Duckling. Nobody else can do Cinderella, Three Little Pigs, Pied Piper. Nobody else can do Peter Pan.
Huh.
Nobody else can do any of these things that they have copyrights of.
So they took an old story and they said,
no, they took hundreds of old stories.
The
old stories are theirs now.
Yes. Alice in Wonderland, that was Lewis Carroll.
Yep.
Yeah, Beauty and the Beast was an old. Aladdin was an old. And so they now own not only their interpretation, but they own
that name,
essentially the name and the story itself. Even though these stories go back, hundreds of years in many cases.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Huh.
In addition, I won't go too much further into the IP laws, but that's the gist of it. And even more egregiously, they also steal ideas from people who pitch them ideas that they reject. And they have a history of doing this. They've done it many times. I have them all listed here, the major ones. This is a very common practice of Disney. Obviously, they can afford the best lawyers. Parenting and Child Development Specialist has sued Walt Disney Co. and its Pixar unit, accusing them of stealing her concept for their 2015 blockbuster movie Inside Out. In a complaint filed Monday, In LA federal court, Denise Daniels said that the animated film featuring color-coded characters representing individual human emotions mirrors a children's program called The Moodsters that she conceived and pitched to Disney every year from 2005 until 2009. So she didn't pitch it once. She pitched it to them 4 years running, and then they used the idea and didn't pay her for it.
Yeah, that's just sleazy.
Here is Zootopia. Gary Goldman, a screenwriter whose credits include Total Recall and Big Trouble and Little China, said in a suit filed Tuesday in LA federal court that he pitched his idea to Disney for a franchise of movies and TV programs called Zootopia that would include an animated feature and a live-action component. The complaint claims that Disney rejected the idea, only to later steal his story, dialogue, title, and artwork for a menagerie of animated characters. And this goes on and on. They stole the Vanacorn from Onward. This is a new film. I'm not sure if you've seen this one, but
I think I've heard of it.
They stole this person's van. See this van?
Oh, no, yeah, I did see this one, actually.
It's a van with a unicorn on it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how well you can see this, but it's not identical, but it is. They stole the idea.
I mean...
Okay. Continuing along this same vein, the most classic of all, that it's about to be public domain, was originally stolen. Walt Disney stole the idea for Mickey Mouse off of his friend. According to Walt Disney, the idea for Mickey Mouse suddenly popped into his head. Nice story, it became a part of American lore, but it's not true. Mickey Mouse was created by an animator named Ub Iwerks, stretched in March 1928 on an ordinary piece of 2-hole punch paper in less than an hour. Iwerks has been largely forgotten. Pretty crooked.
Yeah, I watched a biodoc about Walt Disney and kind of how he created the Disney Empire and how he did steal the idea for that. I feel like back in the day, first off, it was way more common and it was way more acceptable to
steal ideas,
to steal ideas, or maybe they were just looking at. I don't know, because I don't live back then, so I don't know what the mindset at the time was. But you hear about this stuff. With what's coming to mind is music a lot. A lot of the bands that we love, basically, the Beatles, Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, the Byrds, on and on. They stole like half their riffs from Chuck Berry songs from the 50s.
Interesting.
And yeah, Stairway to Heaven, that riff was, I don't think it was Chuck Berry, it was somebody else, but Eric Clapton songs. And it was so prevalent back then.
Are you sure it was accepted, or it was just they could get away with it because they didn't have the digital?
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. I mean, it seems like it was much more prevalent than it was today. Was it just a case of, well, I don't know, because I've listened to interviews with some of these guys today, and they seem to think that, this was, we were paying homage to people that we liked, or, this is just kind of how it was done back then. You hear a nice riff that you like, and you write a song around it. I think with Walt Disney, it's probably a little bit more nefarious, but maybe he looked at it like, yeah, it's my creation. It's my art studio that's creating this, and I'm in charge of this art studio. What this art studio puts out is mine. Whether he's not doing the animations, he's paying other people to do the animations, but he's creating that. I don't know. I'm trying to make a devil's advocate argument for it.
Well, I'm sure he didn't think from the beginning, hey, I'm going to try to monopolize all these classic children's stories for myself. He probably, according to this article here, he basically, every time it would come up for get close to becoming public domain, he would lobby Congress to increase the copyright laws protections. And they, obviously, Disney's a huge company. I'm sure he paid a ton of lobbyist money, and he got his way. Mickey Mouse's copyright will not expire until 2023, so it's coming close.
I would love to hear the argument for how they extended that copyright protection to the older stories and not just their version of those stories or those characters, the characters that they created based on those old stories.
or nefariousness. Stereotyping. This is some of the stereotypes that are sort of part of American culture that weren't caused by Disney, but they were certainly perpetuated and helped along by Disney. Some of the stereotypes. Men are helpless, and women should clean up after them. And this is represented in Snow White. And I noted here, he literally kisses her, and she's unconscious. And this happens in 2 Disney films, actually. Probably wouldn't fly today, but... and in the Sleeping Beauty remake by Disney that's about to come out, they're actually trying out Bill Cosby for the role, so that'll be good, since he's out of prison.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. I hear he's been working on his acting chops.
Another stereotype. You should change who you are for your love interest, and this is Little Mermaid. She changed from a fish person to a human to be with her man. She changed her entire being, her physical, her everything. She gave it all up.
Yeah, well, it's called self-improvement, James.
You should morph yourself into what you want your lover, what your lover wants.
I mean, we're better than the stinky fish people, so not hating on that one.
Outward beauty and wealth is what's important. This is Cinderella, obviously. She's ignored when she's dirty and she's ragged, cleaning the floors. The prince pays her no mind. But she's the perfect love interest when she's dolled up with magic and she appears wealthy and clean.
Yeah, I don't know, it's just a weird one. Are they even... I mean, obviously, like, that idea is a very old idea. You know, the Cinderella story, I mean, that's probably several hundred years old. So are they really advocating that, or are they just...
No.
Yeah, is it just, it's just a weird thing.
They weren't trendsetters, let's put it that way. They never tried to change culture.
Yeah.
Aladdin. The original lyrics in the opening song of Aladdin's Arabian Nights actually included the lines, I come from a land, from a far away place, where they cut off your ear. No, where they cut off your ear. If they don't like your face, it's barbaric. But hey, it's home. I'll say it again. I come from a land, from a far away place, where they cut off your ear if they don't like your face. It's barbaric, but hey, it's home.
Okay, it's where the caravan camels roam, where the winds from the east and the suns from the west. Okay, yeah. So that's not the version that I know.
No, definitely not, because this is a Hammurabi, eye for an eye law, Hammurabi's code law reference here, which obviously is not.
Yeah, they should leave that stuff in. Let kids know.
I think they still have some of those laws in Saudi Arabia.
Just teach these things in context. That's what's I don't know. That's what I feel. I don't mind this stuff being out there in the cultural zeitgeist, but just, hey, it's an opportunity to teach kids. Hey, this is what people used. We don't think this anymore. This is not cool. This is not something we're advocating. This is what people used to think, and this is part of the story. So let's just watch the story. And
do you think there's any danger in letting it live? In
no.
Any form?
Did anybody hear that? Think, well, I got to cut off their ears. It's.
Not that one. What about other more egregious ones, like Dumbo with the crows, and one crow is literally named Jim Crow.
I did not. Yeah, that's a good one. Actually, the kind of the most microphone exploded. I don't know. So this is my context. Growing up where I did, where I think when I was watching that, I don't think I knew any black people at that time. There were no black people that went to school where I went to school. When I was in elementary school, maybe one or two, but I didn't even realize that they were supposed to be black people, that was a black stereotype until I was like maybe high school or out of high school.
Yeah. When
I was having it explained to me. So that would be something like, I don't know, maybe black people watching, black kids watching it, they would have a different kind of reaction to it. They would look at it differently. But with me, it was not like, hey, this is what black people are like. I remember them. They're like, "Hey, Jack, what's up? What's happening, Cracker?" Maybe not. That might have been Sanford and Sons.
I agree with you. I think it's too important to history to just. I mean, you have to learn from history so you don't repeat it. I mean, if you just stop teaching it, then it's just lost to history. It just seems really dangerous to me. If you want to know where you're going, you have to know where you've been, right?
Okay, can you pull up? Type in Sunflower Fantasia.
Fantasia.
I remember hearing about this a few years back. They re-released Fantasia, and there was a particularly problematic, I think, is what the word that they would use, scene
with some centaur women, centaur ladies, half ladies,
half beautiful white centaur lady, and there's this like
cherub baby thing,
and there's this basically like, I guess Uncle Tom's Cabin depiction of a young black girl taking care of her. Yeah, that's Sunflower right there, the black centaur with like the big lips and the kinky hair and the whole deal.
Oh,
yeah.
So they just cut her out completely.
Just cut her out.
That's like they cut. This is like reminiscent of My Little Pony or something, and they just kind of cut out the black pony. Why is she so much smaller than the other ones?
Well, she's their caretaker. She serves them.
Oh, Jesus.
That's what she does. She like takes care of their tails and brushes their hair and stuff like that. Yeah. Oh, and so Disney released this. No, I know what it was. They made an announcement when they were releasing all the old classics on Disney Plus, the streaming platform, and they said that we are including every scene from the old classics. And so there's a bunch of people like, oh, are they going to have Sunflower in there? Are they going to, some of these older problematic depictions? And what they did is they included every scene, every picture, but they just edited out. Like they didn't cut out the whole section. They just edited out Sunflower from the whole thing. But yeah,
it looks like they rearranged a few shots too. But.
Yeah.
But they also, from what I understand, they put warnings before some of the more dicey ones, the earlier ones.
Yeah, that's what you should do. I mean, I think I
agree with that move.
Look, it would be for an interesting conversation. I've watched stuff like this with my daughter, and it's something for just us to talk about. Of course, she's kind of into this whole the social justice movement, but it's
what is your opinion of extending this? The idea of sort of putting a warning, extending that to Twitter, and just let Trump on Twitter, but just put a warning on his channel. Whenever you click on anything Trump, the warning pops up. This guy could incite violence, so and so. I don't know what you would say, but Jack Dorsey, are you listening?
Yeah,
taking your own grave,
buddy. He is. I'm sure that he is listening. Yeah, I think just when you click on Twitter, hey, you might not like. There's going to be some crazy shit here. Just as soon as you open the app, every single time, are you okay with what you're about ready to read? What you're going to be reading? We're just throwing it out there. You might read some interesting stuff about history, some interesting new recipes, or you might hear the president saying that the election was fraudulent.
It's a pretty long warning, but
yeah,
that's a long warning. All right, here. I don't know if you've. I've never even seen this movie, but apparently this exists. I was too young for this, apparently. Song of the South is set to a 19th century southern plantation and follows Uncle Remus, James Basquette, a former black slave who lives happily on his former white master's plantation. The movie's rosy portrait of slavery and racial relations in the South immediately drew criticism at the time of the film's release.
Yeah, this is a rough one.
Here's a clip of this one. See if I can.
By the way, this is what they used to teach us in the school with no black people. They sit us down. All right, children, this is what we're watching today.
We're watching this every day.
Every day.
He's happy. Look
how happily he works for his former master.
Howdy, Brother. Who that called my name? Hello, Uncle Remus.
It's so funny.
It to me that you was in a powerful bad mood to go to the party.
I ain't going to no party.
There's Disney, folks.
Because I ain't going to be here. I'm going to leave this old place.
You mean you was leaving your old briar patch?
That I is.
The place where you was born and raised?
That is.
You mean leaving for good?
That ow! Now see that? That old brow patch ain't brought me nothing but trouble. Ow!
God, man. What do you even say to that? It's like,
I don't know.
Disney. Apparently it drew criticism at the time, which it was pretty egregious if that's the case.
It's in 1946.
46. Okay, there you go.
So that's okay.
Okay, here is one that is pretty egregious also. I didn't remember this. What? Oh, jeez. This one cracks me up. Why am I laughing at these horribly racist things? I'm such an asshole. Okay.
Their fortune. In
They're
the
so
movie,
stupid
velvet
and bad.
cat who raises her kittens on luxury, and Thomas O'Malley is an alley cat.
God, I'm gonna get the
You're
music.
gonna get copyright.
Yeah, the music.
They're all racially stereotyped. Pepe is
Where's the scene? Did I miss?
buck teeth and plays the piano with chopsticks.
That
And
one.
Billy
It's so awful, bro. It's the worst racist shit ever, dude.
Is that bad though? Is it?
What?
the
So,
piano
okay,
with
all right.
chopsticks.
I'm gonna put an idea out there.
And
Right.
Is it possible to have stereotypes that aren't necessarily negative, that are just for that if
what you're
nobody's
saying.
perceiving, they're not put out as being negative and they're not being perceived as negative. It's just kind of something funny.
It's only funny, like, okay, the black guy makes black jokes and it's funny, right? Kevin Hart makes black jokes and it's funny, but the guy who wrote that, I'm assuming, was not Chinese.
Probably not, but in that same thing, they have like some Italian cat that's like, "Hey, mamma mia, I'm going to play the accordion," and they do that with other.
I'm sure it was acceptable at the time, but just looking back on it, it just seems.
But
patently...
it's fine now. Like I don't, my granny was Italian. I don't care. I think those depictions are funny when they got the big Guido guy and they.
Well, there's a little bit of
they do the same. They do the same thing with the French.
There's a little bit of a different history in the United States when it comes to Italians compared to, say, Chinese.
So is that what matters? Is the history
Historical
in America?
context? Yes, historical context matters.
I think it's certain. So what's So I get the historical context argument when you're talking about.
I think that's
like blackface,
right?
That makes sense to me because there are these old minstrel shows where white people would go around in blackface, and it was done to ridicule black people and kind of these black communities. Maybe there's something I just don't. I'm sure.
Even leaving that aside, it's still racist. Even leaving aside the historical context, potential acceptability, it's still right. Even for Italians, it's racist.
Is that bad? Is that bad that it's stereotyping? It's racial stereotyping. But I think racism is associating a negative connotation based on race. I don't think that's negative.
That was pretty negative, wasn't it?
It's funny. No, I don't know. I mean,
I'm not Chinese. I don't know, but it seems pretty negative.
Okay, well, I'm just saying that their French stereotype, the French cat, like it was the same shit. But
yeah,
I don't. I'm sure you can find a place. If we find a place where French people have been vilified and put down, does it become bad there because of the context, or is it bad in and of itself regardless?
I think it's bad in and of itself in 2021. I think it's bad in and of itself. I don't think you can racially stereotype anymore. Even
you get in trouble for doing it. That doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. And that's what I'm trying to figure out, is that why is it bad? I understand we don't like it anymore.
It's degrading.
To who? How do you? I don't know that it's degrading. I mean, some people will say that, obviously.
I guess because of the historical context. I mean, I'm not an expert on the subject, but I would assume it's the historical context. I mean, you have Asian hate crimes going on right now because of the Trump administration, and that it goes back since the beginning, obviously, with the Chinese railroad workers and all that history. But I mean, there's a history. I mean, the Japanese internment camps. There's a history of Asian hate in this country.
Yeah, and I don't see that as a perpetuation of Asian hate. It's just a funny stereotype.
It's a good question. It is stereotyping. Is it negative stereotyping? You're saying? Is it?
Yeah,
Is it hurtful?
I don't.
I can't answer that.
Yeah, stereotyping shouldn't necessarily have a negative connotation. It can just be for fun. It can just joking around.
I think you're right about that.
And people get really uptight about these things, and it is fun to just joke around sometimes. And one of the big differences, something to joke about, is cultural and physical differences between people. But I'm just a white guy in Kentucky, so I can say those things.
Okay, so we all know that Disney was part of the Illuminati. This is well-known information. Club 33 and all that is the Illuminati meeting place, and there's Illuminati symbolism in all the Lion King movie and all the movies.
More.
Here is the Lion King, obviously. Which, man, I keep doing that today. Okay.
Sinister motive. If you look closely, you can almost make out a.
I guess they fixed this in the edit, but sex spells sex. When Simba sits down, the air, the leaves spell sex.
I feel like the animator was a 15-year-old boy. That's the only thing that makes sense. This is exactly what I would have done when I was 15.
Well, there was a lot of animators. I don't think it was just one guy.
Let's put the word sex in the movie.
Could have been accidental, but I don't know.
Maybe I don't think. I mean, it looks pretty obvious. Doesn't look accidental.
No, it doesn't. Every one of those leaves was placed there.
What's the point? I mean, that's what I would have done when I was 16. I would have put like boobs. That's what it would have said.
Okay, The Little Mermaid. We already know. Let's relive this one from the 90s.
Some people see it right away.
Yeah, the dick.
Yeah. It looks like there's almost two penises. Here's one right here with balls, and there's just a big one by itself. I mean, this was the cover art of Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Very suspicious. I don't know that much about Illuminati, but...
Or dicks. All right, so that's the dick that's walking around in the Korean spa. Golden, upright, strong,
proud to be a woman.
How do you feel about that? It's a proud female dick?
Hey, some guys are into that.
Robbing in the Korean spa. Now, what do you feel about that? If your girlfriend's in there, she has to see that dick.
Oh man,
no go. I agree.
I don't think she likes girls, but maybe she does. One more fun one. I didn't remember this one from childhood, but
most.
This is, what's this movie called?
Inappropriate messages
Cinderella.
Ever to appear in a.
Remind you of anything? What were they thinking? No. It looks like he's pulling anal beads out of this.
I don't know what that is. I've never done that in my life.
And they even drew his ass like a butthole.
Like puckered up, yeah. So puckered. He's like,
oh, Cinderella, huh? See, it's just the symbolism is just everywhere. He's just gloating about his billions at this point.
I don't get the. I would just love to be in that animator's room. They sound like a bunch of fun people to hang out with. That's all I can say.